Did you know that there are over 1.5 million different species on our planet? 950,000 of them are insects. Only 5,000 of them are mammals. And just one out of all those species is us humans. Today we're going to talk about evolution. So what exactly is evolution? The Wikipedia definition states that evolution is the change of inherited traits of a population of organisms passed on through generation to generation. This may sound a bit complex, but all it's just saying is that a species evolves to another species by means of mutation. Let's talk about Charles Darwin. Born in 1809, the son of a successful doctor. His mother and family wanted him to follow his father's footsteps, but Charles Darwin wasn't really keen on operations. He was far more interested in animals, and had been an avid collector ever since his childhood. At the beginning, Darwin's career didn't look very promising, but at the age of 22, he was invited on a voyage around the world. Darwin's 5-year trip past places like Cape Town, Sydney, the land of fire. He definitely had many opportunities to study wildlife, to take notes, to build up his theory. His favourite island out of all those places was definitely the Galapagos Islands. It was also there that he really started building up his theory of evolution. He noticed that on the island, the finches and the tortoises were very different than the ones outside, and he thought this could have been something to do with the natural surroundings. He then came up with the idea of natural selection, the survival of the fittest. Natural selection works like this. A long time ago, you most likely didn't have any giraffes. You probably had creatures that may have looked a bit like them, but definitely not ones with long necks. Now imagine one of those creatures was born and had a slight mutation, a slightly long neck, for example. When food was scarce, and there wasn't enough food for everyone, the longer giraffe, or the longer creature, would be able to get to the food higher up and survive. The rest, however, would die, and then the ones with the longer necks would be able to reproduce and produce offspring that had a longer neck. This would carry on until the giraffes that we see today. Natural selection can also be proven by artificial selection. As you go into your local pet store, you probably see different animals of different colours and different furs and everything. All of them were probably specially bred, because some customers like short fur, some like long, some like this colour, and some like another colour. Artificial selection is based on the same principle as natural selection, only natural selection happens over a much longer period of time. Before Darwin, there were many who pondered about evolution and how species evolve into other species. It started with the ancient Greeks, only they didn't really know how to prove it. They didn't really have evidence for natural selection. Then Lamarck came with a suggestion and made his own theory, only it was slightly different than Darwin's. Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck suggested that animals would acquire characteristics while trying to do something that wasn't really possible. So, for instance with the giraffes, his theory would be that in the beginning the giraffes couldn't get to their food, but they stretched and stretched and therefore grew longer necks, and then they would pass on these necks to offspring. That was different than Darwin's, because Darwin's was based on mutations. There was another animal fanatic living at the same time as Darwin. His name was Alfred Wallace, and he had developed almost exactly the same theory as Darwin. Wallace didn't have as much luck as Darwin though. His whole ship sank. But in 1958 Wallace wrote a letter to Darwin, a 12-page theory that he had made, and Darwin was astonished to see that it was exactly the same as his. This also proved, I guess, for the two that both their theories were correct. Darwin then put Wallace's ideas and his into one theory, and he should have called it the Wallace-Darwin theory, although it is called the Darwin's theory of evolution.